Okay. There we go. Let me just wait for this window. Okay. Pop out the chat. Change it to live chat. And I think that's everything all set. All of our ducks are potentially in a row. Good morning, unless it's afternoon or evening or even potentially the next day. Hope you folks are doing well. Let's see here who we got in the chat. Feisty Crabman. Thumb says, greetings from, or is it Thum? It's either Thumb or Thum. Greetings from Alaska. I'm going to try printing some OPR rats this early morning, methinks. Nice. Zingbo, how you doing? From Scotland. We've got New London, Connecticut. We've got a New London, Wisconsin. Strange. Mexico City. VJ Morph, how you doing? Morning from the beautiful and sunny central Susquehanna Valley of Pennsylvania. How you doing, Stanley? John Ashley Smith, howdy. Lazy Pirate Painting. Afternoon from Puckle Church near Bristol. There you go. Working on some Mantic Kings of War Ratkin. Nice. West Greenwich, Illinois, or not Illinois, sorry, Rhode Island. I just saw the I part there, and I just, let's see here. Good morning from Zionsville, Indiana, making chili this morning, sorting and organizing hobby space this afternoon. It's a good idea. I mean, both on both counts, the chili and the sorting, you know. Actually won our Gaslands match last night. Bragging rights bestowed until the next one. Nice, not too bad. Got way too much in my backlog. The newest Chaos Space Marine box does look like gas. I mean, you know. Hi from a surprisingly non-rainy Wales. It has been gray here for weeks. There was a couple minutes of sun yesterday, and I actually went outside and just stood out there, and so it would hit me in the face. But otherwise, it's just been gray for weeks and weeks and weeks. I built Iron Man from the MCP box and gave it to someone for a mini swap, and the rest stayed on the sprue. I'm playing MCP with the Marvel United minis. Gotcha. Good morning from West Bend, Wisconsin. Time to build some Legion models. Nice. Good morning from Quebec. Let's see here. New Mexico. What else? Mesa, Arizona. Or is it Mesa? It's Mesa, I believe. How's your weekend so far? Okay. Somewhat productive, which is, I think, good. Let's see here. Good morning from Green Bay, working on Chaos Gargant Monster for Warcry. Nice. Good morning from Lexington. Good morning from St. Louis, Washington, D.C. Let me see here. Saskatchewan, always a lot of fun to say. Greetings from the edge of never. How you doing? Hello, hey everyone from a chilly Kent in the UK. Hello from Paterno, Italy. Long time since. Absolutely. Wargaming Lobby. How you doing? Let me see here. Yes. Glendale, Arizona. Western Massachusetts. Chilly, New Orleans. Working on a Golden Demon project for Adepticon. Nice. Portsmouth. Nowhere, Indiana. Working on some Grimdark 3D sculpts. Cool. Kleefeld, Manitoba. I don't know if I've heard of Kleefeld before. Morning from cold Tennessee. Don't like the weather? Just wait a couple hours. I mean, I think there's a lot of parts of the world, or specifically at least the states, where people say that a lot. I mean, you hear it about Wisconsin a lot too. Don't like the weather? Just wait 15 minutes. I do remember one time when I was in college that during a class that I took, like during a single 2-hour like art, like, you know, class, art lab class, it rained, snowed, thundered and lightninged, possibly during the snow. And then when I left class, it was like 20 degrees warmer and sunny. It was all, it was like, yeah, it was crazy. Hello from Limerick, Ireland. Finally given into aging and bought magnifying glasses. Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. Hello from Germany. Heard you had some snow. We haven't had some snow here in a couple of weeks, which I'm fine with, frankly. A little bit of knock on wood right there. Charlotte, North Carolina. Williamsburg, Virginia. Calgary, Indiana. Knoxville. Zurich, Switzerland. Cannes, south of France. Reading through some 5 parsecs bug hunt rules. Really looking forward to trying out the rule set. Nice. Working on an Ogre Blood Bowl team. Pretty cool. Making a textured palette for dry brushing. I was going to buy one last year or this year at Adepticon. I went to the Artist Opus booth, and then I was like, I'm going to come back in about 20 minutes and pick one of these up. And I came back, and it was gone. They were all out. If you ever go to a convention or anything like that and you see something you want to buy and you plan on buying it, buy it now. Don't go, I'll come back later, because it won't be there. It's just I can't tell you how many times that has happened. Like, if you're like, I'm wondering about buying it, thinking about buying it, that's a different story. But if you're like, I'm going to buy this, but I'm going to come back in 20 minutes and buy this, it won't be there. I don't know why. Hello from rainy California. Greetings from Slovakia. Let's see here. Be painting some Games Workshop miniatures. Nice. Good morning from southern Massachusetts. I have a friend that picked up an Elegoo Mars 3D printer. He keeps it in an unfinished part of his house. Do you need to vent these due to fumes? I believe you need to vent it due to fumes. I think it's a smart plan. Some people don't and say that it doesn't bother them, but I drilled a hole in my house. So yeah, so I could do that. Morning from Texas, Columbus, Ohio. Colder than it should be West Midlands. I have no heating or hot water. Well, that is not good. I hope things get better. Good morning from Germany. Greetings from Athens, Greece. Assembling Perry minis for Frostgrave. Nice. Was at my FLGS last night and I picked up a pot each of the old Agrax Earthshade and Seraphim CP. My wife thought I was crazy at how excited I got finding it. Yeah, absolutely. Doverio, Scotia. Hello, minions. Should really use this as motivation to start at my Golden Demon entry. Absolutely. Been chilling out and watching new movies trailers on YouTube. Got to check out the Renfield trailer. Looks historic. Yeah, I think I did see that. Yeah, it's the one with Nicolas Cage, I think. Yep, I did see that one. Grimdark Brit, how you doing? Finishing up some miserable Finecast GW sculpts. If they were not presents for my brother, they would be eBay bound. Yeah. Oh, right. Every other Sunday is on YouTube. That's true. Yes. I started doing this long before I started doing Twitch. But yeah, this is always on YouTube. Working on my Cool Mini or Not Thundercats expansion for Zombicide. Wow. You should have ventilation from a 3D printer. Fumes. I have one of my resin printers in my bedroom. I have a bunch of air filters, and anything further I consider a problem for future Molly. Well, yeah. My convention plan starts with attack the trade hall for the things I want to buy from researching the traders. It's not a bad idea, yeah. Good morning from DC. Played a great skirmish game called Fistful of Lead last night. I'm 98% sure I've heard of that. I believe so. Let's see here. Halifax, Nova Scotia, working on basing some new Necron to use in Space Station Zero. I'm back to the hobby after 30 years. Well, that's good to hear. Absolutely. I'm glad to hear you're back to the hobby. Absolutely. And I'm glad to hear that you're playing Space Station Zero as well. Greetings from Oslo, Norway, working on some Hero Quest minis from the 90s. Wow, nice. Morning from New Jersey, finishing up Cruel Boys this evening. I just opened my garage door if I think I need ventilation. The issue is like, because people have been said, when I was like going to drill a hole in the house, people are just like, well, just put the printer in your garage. And I'm like, that's not going to work, because it's, like right now, today it is 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know, something like -3 probably Celsius. And so, yeah, that's it. I mean, heck, right now my basement is technically probably too cold to print. So I'm trying to figure out a way to, I bought one of those like brewer belt things to put around the actual resin tank, that's supposed to heat it up a little bit. You plug it in the wall, but I'm thinking that the enclosure probably needs a little bit more heat as well. So I'm trying to find like a really tiny little heater that won't start the house on fire type of thing, which probably shouldn't, but nonetheless. And then I have to figure out how to power it all, and then we'll go from there. Are you interested in the next wave of Marvel United? They are doing Multiverse this time. Marvel United is a great game too. Lots of fun. I've not played it. I've painted some of the models, but because the folks at Board Game Geek sent it to me, but I've not played it. It's probably not my thing. It's one of those things where it was a situation where they're like, we want you to show people who are board gamers like how quickly they can paint up their board game stuff and how it's not as difficult as they might think. So that's why I painted this model. But I don't know that I would have chosen to paint. I'm not a big chibi fan. I've never been. I don't know why. It's a weird proportion thing and it's strange. Hello from the Midlands, UK. I'm currently rebasing hundreds of very old Space Marines for my Build the Entire Blood Angels chapter project. That's a big project. I had my printer on the house until my grandbaby came home. Gotcha. Good morning from sunny Toronto, Ontario. Lucky. We don't have any sun. Speed painting up some Votan in time for a GT next weekend. Nice. I 3D print in a spare bathroom. Got a solid vent fan, so I have little issues. The alcohol fumes are more problematic during the cleanup step than the resin. Yeah, I've talked to some folks who've got like a second bathroom that they don't use that much, and they'll 3D print in there because it's got a nice ventilation fan. So yeah, that would be nice. And neither of our bathrooms have ventilation fans, sadly. And we use them both, so it's, Good morning from rainy NYC. Hoping to start on some old Hammer Dwarves. Nice. Hello from Germany. How you doing? Hobby goal for 23 is to finally paint my original Hero Quest set. Nice. Resin needs to be around 20 centigrade at least to print. Yeah, and my basement right now is about 63 on a good day. Usually 61, not centigrade, obviously, the Fahrenheit. Good morning from an unusually sunny Mitten. Again, lucky. Hello from SWMO. I'm not sure what SWMO is. SWMO. I don't know. Hello from Oregon. What are your thoughts on the rules update for Star Wars Legion coming out tomorrow? I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. I was just yesterday putting all of my Star Wars, my painted Legion minis into a tray, foam tray. I bought some of those battle foam boxes, the cardboard boxes. They come all flat, kind of like banker's boxes, and then you fold that top lid and you fold up the inside part, and they're the size of a big battle foam tray. And so I bought some of those from my local shop yesterday because I'm doing some cleaning and stuff, and I'm just, needed more space to put away more miniatures and things like that. That's stuff that I don't use on the regular. And so I was putting away my Legion models, and I was wondering, I wonder what the rules are like these days. And I haven't been keeping track. I know that there was a whole thing about these kind of volumetric sort of things about whether you can see somebody, and like each model has a different kind of cylinder, and it's a whole I don't play competitively, so I probably wouldn't go down that rabbit hole to the same degree, but it'll be interesting to see what they do as far as rules changes, I guess. I won't know, in that I won't necessarily have a great frame of reference to compare to the old versions, so but I'm sure people on the internet will talk about it, so I'll find out more then. Finally got around to buying Space Station Zero. Got the PDF on my Kindle, hard copy on the way. Nice. But well, thank you for purchasing it. I appreciate that. When I was at the shop yesterday picking up those battle foam cardboard boxes, someone bought. The local shop carries both Space Station Zero and Rain and Hell, and someone bought both of them while I was there. So that was nice. Putting gold on my custodies using cordless airbrush. Neat. About -7 Celsius here right now, but my garage is nice and comfortable with my electric space heater. That's pretty cool. Are the Underworld's warbands still used in New Warcry? I have the Tome of Champions with them, but I thought that was first. Looking forward to Slaves of Darkness, so I want the Underworld's warband to try. I don't know. I'm assuming, and again, this is an assumption, so what happens when you assume. I'm assuming that because the Tome of Champions came out so close to the launch of whatever you call it there, the 2.0, right? Because it came out so close to the launch of Warcry 2.0. I'm just going to assume that they built the stats for all of those models, taking into consideration you would use them, because they have not said, as far as I have seen, either direction. They're like, oh, these are the old stats. It would be a humongous dick move to have that book come out and then 3 months later be like, oh, it's all garbage now because we came out with a new edition. Now, the fact that the new edition of Warcry uses the same stat line and didn't make any major changes there also leads me to believe like it should be fine. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been using the Tome of Champions version. Now, the downside, though, to the Tome of Champions version, at least at this point, is that there are no, for all the new warbands, there's the new, Warhammer Underworlds, groups that have come out, they don't have any stats for them yet, which I'm assuming will probably come in the next Tome of Champions, whenever that should be. You would have thought it would have been at the end of 2022, but no. So maybe the Tome of Champions 2022 will come out in early 2023. I can't keep track anymore. We'll see how it works out. I built myself a small heated enclosure for my printer to use in my garage. Tiny space heater with a thermostat, keeps it at 90 even in freezing temperatures. Nice. Reptile heating mats would work great. Yeah, maybe I'd have to put it in. Yeah, that's not a bad idea because it would warm up the inside, but it's not like blowing air or anything like that. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Let's see. Have you heard about the new Sword Weirdos rules coming out in Kickstarter? Watched a video by Oldhammer. Rather excited for the news. Well, I think they already did the Kickstarter. I'm waiting for it to come out like just at, well, I was gonna say at retail, but I mean, I don't think he's gonna have it in stores, but I want to buy it from Wargame Vault. So yeah, I did not get it. I missed the Kickstarter to some degree. And so yeah, I just want to buy it like regular when it comes out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that actually. Sword Weirdos is by Garsky Games, the same people that make Space Weirdos, which I enjoy quite a bit and talk about. Hi from Austria. Expecting snow this evening. Question for you. What app are you using for list building with new points updates for 40K? Well, I don't play 40K. So I generally just use Battlescribe. But I use Battlescribe for Warcry at this point, which is really... and I like to use that app. It works out pretty well. One of the things I really like about it is that it translates all the weird icons in Warcry so that you don't have to figure out what this skull means in comparison to that skull icon, which is slightly different than the other, that kind of thing. It will just give you words instead of icons, which I like. And also, when you build your list, it will just show you the special abilities that only apply to your list. It won't show you all the special abilities because then sometimes you'll look at an ability and be like, this is really cool, and then realize it doesn't apply to your list because you don't have a person with the right icon. So the real benefit, in my mind, to using Battlescribe is that it literally just goes, here are the rules that will actually work with your list, and the ones that don't work with your list, we don't bother showing you, which is actually sort of nice. So yeah. Battlescribe is weird. Like, it is a very weirdly designed app. It takes some time to figure out. Once you figure it out, you're like, okay, cool, but it's not well, as a person who does UX, UI, user interface and user experience for a living, it's not great, but I'm pretty sure it's a one-person show. I'm surprised no one has designed an insulated window exhaust fan yet. As a renter, it would be super handy for bathrooms and hobbies. Might have to build one. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've seen things like that kind of for... there are people that... I've seen people that have like air conditioners that don't sit in the window. They like just are on little wheels and they just like sit in your bedroom, but then there's the hose that goes to the window and there's like a thing that you can close down on the window and whatnot. And there's a whole, but those aren't particularly insulated per se either for like winter. So yeah, I don't know. For winter printing in the garage, I've got a heavy cardboard box, aluminum tape, a mini space heater, fermentation belt, and a temperature switch to shut it down after it hits temp. Interesting. Good day from sunny London. Lucky. Kit bashing some Joy Toy mechs for pretty much every sci-fi game I own. Cool. It's chilly South Florida where it's 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh my goodness. And we had a minor frost advisory this morning. Admittedly, you guys do have a problem that we don't have up here. Like, when it does get cold enough, eventually, from what I understand, iguanas will fall out of trees and land on you sometimes, and that can be dangerous. But we don't have that problem here. But we are about 30 degrees cooler than you are right now. This could probably be its own video, but what would you recommend for a game to get kids into tabletop wargaming that dials down the blood and guts and is appropriate for elementary age minds? That would be probably not a bad video. I would have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have kids, and so I know there's a game out there which doesn't exactly dial down the blood and guts, but it maybe cartoonifies it a little bit, and it's called Necro Molds, and it's kind of a miniatures game, but it's like a Play-Doh miniatures game. Like you have these little molds, and you put some Play-Doh in there, and you squeeze it, and then you have a cool like kind of cartoon skeleton guy, or like a cartoon zombie guy, and stuff like that, and then you use those as your figures. And then, I don't know if you get to squish your opponents when you kill them or something like that. I'm assuming so. Why else would you make it out of Play-Doh? But whatever. But yeah, Necro Molds is a thing that is kind of a miniatures game that's kind of aimed towards children to some degree. If you do a Google search for Necro Molds, I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, otherwise I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with games for kids or just kids in general. Don't have any experience really, which is, you know, one of the reasons yeah. Inkbird controller might be helpful. It just cycles on and off a heater for chiller that is plugged into mains. Inkbird, interesting. Watched Ash, a Guerrilla Miniature Games review of Anthems of War. Looks pretty cool. I have not heard of Anthems of War. Interesting. We use contact-safe electric heat panels for our chickens in the winter. Might work for your printer. Yeah, I can see that. Put that inside the thing, and then, because it wouldn't take up much space, but it'd still warm up. That's not a bad idea. Some sort of heat pads and stuff like that, yeah. Watching from Derby, UK, while putting together some Tiger tanks. Nice. I love hearing folks talking about HeroQuest. I thought I was the only one who still enjoyed it. I never played. I know when they re-released it, people got real excited and stuff like that, but I never played it back in the day, so... I did play Battle Masters, but I never played HeroQuest. Hello from France. Just got back into the hobby a few months ago after a 10-year break. Thanks for very helpful videos, which also help for my work as an artist. Nice. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear they're helping. I'm glad to hear you're back in the hobby. Morning from Beaver Dam. It's here in the state. If you're in the area, visit Randolph. I got a game of The Last War running at the LGS there. Well, that's pretty cool. I don't know if I'm familiar with Randolph. You know where Randolph, Wisconsin is?
Not really.
Yeah, neither of us.
What's the zip code?
We don't know the zip code. That's okay. Friend gifted me a Stormcast Immortal, an Ogre, and 10 Skaven Minis for me to do because I was bored. Well, that's pretty cool. That's a very nice thing to do. Let's see here. My goodness. There we go. Working on some terrain from Christmas cardboard boxes for Victory Decision. That's pretty cool. Cylinder thing sounds like Infinity. Yeah, but I think they were trying to do it as well. Maybe not cylinder, but they were definitely doing like a... There was definitely something where they were like having like shapes because for Legion, I definitely remember hearing about that. Maybe it was more silhouettes than cylinders, but yeah. Let's see here. Did you sign them? Oh no, I didn't. That's well, I was not asked, so I'm not going to just be like, oh, here, I'll just but yeah. But Vince and I have signed the books before when people ask, for sure. Hello from France. Have you heard of Moonstone, a fun skirmish game without dice? I've heard of it. I don't know much about it, but I have heard of it. Local FLGS stocking Pro-Acryl paints. So excited. Yes, indeed. That is a nice thing. Absolutely. I got my new paint sets from them on Friday, just before my stream on Twitch. The new Vince Venturella paint set and the Ninjon paint set. So I need to reconfigure my paint rack because there are more Pro-Acryl paints now than there used to be, and so I need to get them all on there. And the one little kind of thing doesn't fit, so I've got a second one that I've just been kind of putting random stuff in. And I'm gonna have to figure out where to put that random stuff because I need more space for the Pro-Acryl stuff. Greetings from Australia. Searching for inspiration for my Slaves of the Darkness colors, undivided but split between Khorne and Tzeentch. Blues and reds will probably be involved somewhere. Sure, I can understand that. Have you checked out the new Star Wars skirmish level game that they're starting to show ads for? Is that the Shatterpoint or whatever? I've seen them announce Shatterpoint. To me, it looks like it is just a Star Wars version of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Which, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, if they release it around Gen Con, maybe I can get a demo when I'm at Gen Con. But the fact that it's like, they haven't come straight out, I don't think, and said, yes, it is definitely a different scale. But it looks like it's a different scale. It looks like it's a 40 millimeter scale like the other one, like Marvel. So that's kind of a bummer. I was really hoping they were just going to come up with a skirmish game that was going to use Legion models, but then they can't sell more models as easily. So, yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I have my suspicions. that Atomic Mass Games is going to put more effort into Shatterpoint than they do into Legion, because Shatterpoint is a game that they wrote, whereas Legion is technically not, because it was written by other folks when it was still with Asmodee or whatever. Anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. It seems like it's fracturing the market even a little bit more, but whatever. That's their market. Some of the more recent Underworld's warbands have gotten second edition Warcry rules in White Dwarf. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I hate that so much. Like, you're supposed to buy all these dumb White Dwarfs so you can get rules to play with it. Anyway, it is astounding how much more goodwill that they could get if they would just be like, look, you bought these models. Would you like to be able to play them in another game and justify these models' existence? Here, come over here to Warhammer Community and download the free PDF. But instead, no, buy a $12 magazine that you don't necessarily want. It drives me nuts. Hopefully, they'll just take all of those things then and then double dip and throw them all into a Tome of Champions, and I'll just buy that instead. There are not currently Bladeborn rules for any of the warbands prior to the release of second edition Warcry, but the new warbands have been given stats in White Dwarf. I think Warcry, I think. Bladeborn? I don't know. Anyway. Oh, yeah, because... right, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, never mind. Do you have a skirmish setting, cyberpunk, steampunk, that you think is really under the radar, the next big thing? I would like to see, like, I like The Last War, which is a Forbidden Psalm alternate history World War I would like to see some other alternate history, maybe. I think it'd be cool to see an alternate history, maybe like skirmish World War II, maybe. I think that would be interesting. I think if the folks over at Warlord Games, if the folks over at Warlord Games were really on the ball, I think they would try to make a skirmish version of like Conflict 47. But I doubt that they will. They should. I think it would be a smart move, but I don't know if they will. They don't seem to match the point values used in second edition. Probably blame global shipping for why the tome came out so close to second edition. I mean, yeah, possibly. Need a rug for the floor. The man cave decided to order one on the pattern of the carpet from The Shining. Nice. One of my hobby goals this year is to create a travel hobby kit with paints, brushes, and a few tools in a compact package I can manage. Space will be an issue. Sure. Really want to try those Warhammer Underworld Skaven, but they're just not people who play it around here. Yeah. Warhammer Underworld's really dropped off in our area. Like, it used to be real hot, and then all of a sudden it just kind of, boom, just dropped off. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, part of it was obviously the pandemic, but it didn't come back after the pandemic like some other things did. Another practical thing I need this year is a decent chair to work in here. Yeah, I've got the stool that I use downstairs is okay, but it's not great. Is Battlescribe better on their website? I've always had problems with the app. I generally use the app. The website, strangely enough, is also completely different than, in my opinion, than the app. It's weird. Is it possible to buy signed copies of Space Station Zero? Not currently, unless you catch us at a convention where we're selling it. So I know we've signed them at Adepticon in the past. Well, it was Rain in Hell because the Space Station Zero wasn't out yet at Adepticon this year. But we signed them at Nova because it had come out finally by the time Nova happened in DC, and we had copies to sell. We did a seminar, whatever, Q&A type thing, and then we had, I don't know, 25 copies of the game, and then we sold those, and a lot of people wanted them signed. And then there'll be Tabletop Minions Expo, TMX, coming up in June. So, which the date's going to get announced official, I think, probably this upcoming week. So, yeah, we'll be selling them there as well, including probably the plan is to be selling the new game at TMX as well. So that'll be cool. The box of my most used travel toolkit is annoying me. I need to change it. Then you catch wild iguanas and sell them as pets to unsuspecting buyers who don't know that they're feral. Ooh, that seems like a bad idea. Monster Apocalypse is great for kids. Yeah, I could see that. That's a good point. Sure. Good morning from the cold West Texas desert. It'll be hot in a couple hours, and I understand. But my wife says I can't start another army, even if it's Slaves to Darkness. I can only use our Warcry. Sure, I get that. Fairly simple 2D superheroes. Defeated minis get knocked out, not killed. There's a game called Battalions. It's basically a super simple war game designed teaching kids. It was on Kickstarter. Necro molds. There you go. Yeah. Dice Heads makes a family-friendly war game called Zoontalis, but you have to 3D print everything. Yeah. Or potentially find somebody on like Etsy or something like that, or a friend who could do it for sure. You do squeeze your enemies in necromolds. I think you use different seals for it, and each will have a different effect on the battlefield. That's kind of cool. Game aimed towards kids. Alien Worlds from, is it Echidna Games? Very simple and mini agnostic, of course. Well, that's pretty cool. I really want the Slaves of Darkness to build an OPO or warband. That'd be kind of, or yeah, one-page rules warband. That'd be pretty cool. I almost got the merchant license for it, but it was a financial low point for me. Gotcha. I bought Hero Quest for my inner 10-year-old this Christmas. I got my adult son and my daughter-in-law playing. They both are hooked and will be playing Space Station Zero shortly. Well, that's pretty cool. There we go. Let's see here. Zoontalis makes me think of an old Steve Jackson RPG light tune. Oh, yeah, I remember Tune, yeah. Marvel Crisis Protocol is pretty kid-friendly. Yeah, I could see that. Am I the only person that would like a G.I. Joe mini game? You'll probably have to talk to maybe Renegade Game Studios. Renegade Game Studios has a current license, at least for board game type stuff. And I know there's a kind of a board game for G.I. Joe, or is it a card game? Maybe it's more of like a not like, you know, not like Magic, but like a living card game type of game. I don't remember exactly. My day job, we've done a bunch of work with Renegade and built a couple of different websites for them. And then one of them was a Transformers one, and one of them was a G.I. Joe one. One of them was a My Little Pony one, which still hasn't launched, I don't think. But yeah. But I'm pretty sure they've got the license currently. I've got a therapy happy lamp to help me get sun through our Wisconsin winters. It's not a bad idea. Hello from Rhode Island, building up what I need to complete my janky list for Captain Con. Nice. Hero Quest is the OG dungeon crawl. Minis and adventures are great, but rolled to move is meh. Sure. Hello from Edmonton, Canada, working on learning Space Station Zero. Well, good to hear. In my day, kids played brutal, dark fantasy wargames with wholly inappropriate themes and artwork and liked it. Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose. Some, depending on the age again. Have you changed your mind about the new version of Kill Team? No, I haven't. I haven't, like the new plastic walls and stuff are kind of cool, but it's not, yeah, no, so far I haven't really. Gaslands should be also relatively okay for kids. I mean, yeah, I could see that, sure. Kids like Matchbox cars and stuff like that, for sure. Seems a few stores have finally started stocking Pro Acryl in Australia. Great news. Absolutely. That's very cool. I actually have a strange question. When you worked on Rain in Hell and Space Station Zero, when did you deposit the trademarks for Snarling Badger? And is it necessary if I want to share my game PDF? I'm not sure what you mean there. Deposit the trademarks for Snarling Badger. The games are... So the way that, at least in the States, that trademark works is that you automatically get to be able to put the TM as a trademark next to a, you know, like a name of a product, a name of a whatever, a game, stuff like that. Plus, we've declared copyright on the inside of the book as well. Now, if you want to get a circle R next to the name as opposed to just a TM for trademark, the circle R is registered trademark, then that you have to go through like some lawyers and some shenanigans and blah, blah, blah. And I think the Library of Congress or somebody gives you the actual registered circle R trademark. And it costs like, I don't know, like $5,000 or something like that. So there are games out there that are designed to be like, some games will go out there and put stuff out like in a Creative Commons. And we thought about that for a while and we just kind of decided not to go down that road. So yeah, it's, you know, we've had people ask us about like, oh, hey, can we like, you know, license, can I make like expansions and then put them out there and sell them and stuff like that. And we haven't wanted to go down that road just because we're gonna have to get like lawyers and all kinds of stuff like that involved. And it's just not necessarily a thing that we want to do at this point, but we've thought about it a little bit. So yeah. But again, we're also not like making a game system that is like a game system. Like each of these games is kind of a standalone. You play the thing and then, you know, you can play it multiple times. Very, you know, they definitely have replayability and stuff like that. But as far as actual like people have asked us, they're like, well, why did you make a second game when you already made Rain in Hell? Why didn't you just start making lots of expansions for Rain in Hell? And we're like, because we want to make different games to appeal to different people and to also so that we enjoy not having to make the same game over and over again. I think a lot of game companies have, specifically a big one that rhymes with Games Workshop, have basically designed things so that they've trained people to think, well, I have to buy this one game and then just keep buying things for it. And it becomes my identity or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And the fact is that it used to be, you played a lot of different games and you kind of hopped around, and very frequently a lot of the models were, you know, because it was mostly historicals when kind of miniature games first started, it was like, oh, I can use these guys in this game and this game and this game because they're just, it's Napoleonics or it's American Civil War or it's whatever. And, yeah, so the way that people kind of see games these days is different than the way it was, and that's why we're, you know, doing things that are model agnostic or miniature agnostic. That's why we're doing things where we're not like, okay, well, we're gonna like build an ecosystem that you have to buy into. You know, we're just like, no, if you want to play this game, you don't wait till the next one. You know, we'll come out with another one next year. Will getting the Vince and John paints make it easier to paint like them? Yes, absolutely. Do they have tiny amounts of talent siphoned into them? I mean, I think there was a spell. I'm pretty sure that Jason is some sort of wizard, so I think that there was a spell involved, but I could be wrong on that. It might have instead been just a scroll and not an actual spell. I'm not sure. No worries about getting paints delivered during the winter. I'm a house painter, and I know that the cold does to my acrylic paints in the van. A lot of the paint companies these days are putting something in their paints. And I know the most recent company I heard talking about it was TurboDork. They had to reformulate a bunch of their paints because of that very thing, because of potential freezing due to delivery in the winter and such. And so they had to add some sort of other additive to make it so that was less likely to happen and whatnot. But I think that most paint brands these days have something like that within miniature painting, sure. House painting and stuff like that, maybe not so much. Fracturing the market with Shatterpoint. Oh. They usually do compile White Dwarf materials into books when they are things. Yeah, usually that's the case too. I would buy more models if we got updates for free. Heck, I'd buy the Tome of Champions annuals too. Hate flipping through the magazines. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's the thing I've been saying for a long time is that I got into Age of Sigmar when it launched because the rules were all free, basically. I know I bought models because I could sit there and just look through the app and be like, oh, that's what that does. Oh, that's really cool. And this guy can synergize with that guy. And then I bought models. And now when they're going more back to like, well, if you want to learn about the models, you better buy this $50 codex. Not so much. Do you use a textured palette for dry brushing, and did you make it yourself? I was going to buy one from Artis Opus actually at Adepticon this year, and they were sold out before. Like I saw them, I'm like, I'm going to come back in 20 minutes, and then I came back in 20 minutes, and the last one was gone. Lately, excuse me, lately what I've been doing for dry brushing is I've been finding like paper that's not paper towel, like a magazine page, like almost like kind of a glossier kind of paper like that, you know. And I've been using that for my dry brushing because then it gets a little bit less dusty, and it's been working out pretty well. Let's see here. What else? Ottawa, Canada. Got my ticket, VIG bag sorted out for Adepticon. What a mess of a sign up. Booted on and off the site for 45 minutes and finally locked it down. Yeah, the company that they work with and have worked with for a number of years, from what I understand, had a global server problem literally 6 minutes before registration opened. Like their event servers went down pretty much nearly worldwide just before. So it wasn't even like, oh, people started registering and then the servers got hammered and crashed. They crashed before the registration started. So I feel real badly for the guys from Adepticon, and I really hope that this company Cvent gives them some sort of discount or something, you know, to this year, because that was a mess. Now, I didn't try registering for anything until about an hour and a half after the beginning of, you know, the opening of it, because I wasn't really looking to take any classes particularly, and I didn't want a VIG bag or any of that kind of stuff like that. I just needed a badge, and I wanted to sign up for the GW preview thingy, which I have a suspicion I will probably, well, maybe I'll watch all of it this year. We'll see. Last year I kind of walked out halfway through. It wasn't, I don't know. It was like, yeah, I've heard about some of this stuff and that's fine. And also last year there was a super long line to get wristbands to show that you were vaccinated and stuff like that. And so I hadn't got my wristband yet. And I was halfway through this presentation. And I'm like, you know, I bet the line for wristbands is really short right now because everybody is in this room. So then I left and went, and then it was very short. So, yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, a lot of people want to go. Yeah, that's the trick, you know. I mean, especially now that the pandemic is hopefully seeming to be on the downswing. Like a lot of people are coming back to this kind of stuff, and so, you know, a lot of classes sold out instantaneously, and a lot of other events and all that kind of stuff. I've got friends who have been playing in like the Horus Heresy 30K tournaments for a long time, or not even tournaments, or more just like events, and weren't able to get in because, you know, because so many other people want to get in, and also the servers were all screwy, and it's a whole thing. But I know a lot of people were angry at the people who run Adepticon, and that's poorly aimed. It's not their fault, you know. That's just, and I saw some guy online who was like, well, they could just design their own site instead of using this other company. And I'm like, you obviously don't work in IT. You don't know how this works. You know, like when you've got 400 to 500 people per 10-second tick trying to hit a website, you know, your average person who can use a Squarespace site is not going to be able to design something to work in that situation. It's not the same thing. It's an order of magnitude, not the same thing. So. And Cvent, whose job it is, evidently couldn't even pull it off. But again, it wasn't that they crashed because of people trying to get in. They crashed before people tried getting in, which is not great. Let's see here. With the release of the... Oh, geez, everything moved. With the release of the Old World, do you suppose we will see minis suitable for Mordheim and Square bases more available? I have no idea. I got to be honest. I hate Square bases. I've never liked them. So I don't, and I'm not, yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people are real excited about the Old World. I'm not, because I don't like rank and flank games. I don't like Square bases. I liked Mordheim. But I would rather play it with newer models and round bases. But that's just me. Or though, you know, honestly, I can just also play Frostgrave or potentially Stargrave, which is going to be a little bit more to my liking. Is there any good, maybe upcoming alternative to Battlescribe? I think I've heard there's a website called Rosterizer, I think. Like ROSTI Zer. I don't know, Rosterizer, I think. Roster, ROSTERIZER, something like that. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. I just know that they're heading in that direction, but I don't know anything about it. I think it's maybe in beta at best. Maybe it's an alpha. I don't know. The problem is that nobody wants to pay for it, and the companies, well, specifically Games Workshop, does not like it when you do that. Like, the reason that Battlescribe requires that the data sheets or the data sets for each game come from outside of Battlescribe is because if Battlescribe was coming up with those data sheets or data sets, then GW could sue them. But if these data sets are kind of put in there sort of anonymously from people outside of the company, then GW can't sue anybody, I guess. I don't know. It's a real weird, squirrely kind of legal thing from what I understand, and I could be misrepresenting it, but yeah, so, and also generally like I pay for Battlescribe because if there's an app I use that has ads, but I can pay to get rid of the ads, and I use the app sort of frequently, I will pay the money to get rid of the ads unless it's too much. There was a weather app I used to use that I really liked, and all of a sudden they decided, hey, if you don't want ads for the year, it's $30. And I'm like, I don't know if I like it that much. So nonetheless, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to do to get people to, like, it's hard to just make revenue off of things like that. Lord knows. We ran into that same issue with Game 4 to some degree. Kit bashing some Skitarii for the last war. Ooh. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I could see that. Both Hasbro games are deck builders. That's what I was thinking. Let's see here. I love building cars for Gaslands, the closest thing to freeform modeling out there. If it looks cool, it is cool. Yep. After painting GW models for several years, it's been fun to switch up and paint Deathray Designs mechs for Ash Barker's Steel Rift game. Yep. Just a change of pace creates enjoyment. Yeah, I've actually I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, I got to sit down and like write up some lists so I can start building the mechs and then I can paint them. Hello from the New York woods. How you doing? Played my first game of Age of Sigmar yesterday. It was very fun, but the first round took us 3 hours, and I was starting to miss Warcry by the end. Yeah, I had some people ask me, I think on Friday, like, well, why don't you play Age of Sigmar anymore? And I'm like, they were trying. No, I think the question was, is Vince going to be able to convince you to play Age of Sigmar? And I'm like, well, I played Age of Sigmar version 1 and version 2. It's just that I really enjoyed version 1. Version 2, yeah, but then version 3, they just kept adding so much stuff, and the game got so dense, and all these little that I fell out of love with it. Let's say that. Plus, I'm just not super interested in army games anymore either. So there's that. So, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see if they change it again and simplify it pretty soon, I'm thinking, because let's see. Age of Sigmar. Yeah, so not this summer, but next summer. New Age of Sigmar should come out. Age of Sigmar 4 will come out in 2024, probably, because Age of Sigmar 2021 is that's when 3 came out. So yeah, it'll be 3 years, so they'll come out with a new version. I think it will probably be similar to Marvel Crisis Protocol. I like Crisis Protocol for the most part, enough that I'm going to pull a trigger and buy in. I do like their models. Yeah, I don't know if I do. I honestly, like, just the Shatterpoint models that I've seen so far, I've been like, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm not sure what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like, We have a large FLGS relative to the population size. Convenient hearing your recommendations on stream and then being able to pick up and store it straight after. Well, that is convenient. Sure, absolutely. Ninjon put out a video the other day explaining the new paints he and Vince helped design. Vince did also. Yep. Oops. GW is a bookmaking company first and foremost, which is just wrong. I mean, it's not wrong to make books. It's weird that because their models are many of their models are quite good, also quite expensive. And then they follow up by also making you also need to buy, like, they do have a book problem. They have a book addiction. And I've talked about that here on the channel before, that they could, if they dialed that back, that might be better for them in the long run, I would think. But what do I know? It's just that most other companies do seem to do that, where, like, yeah, they'll sell you a book if you want it, but they'll also give you the rules for free. Now, a lot of people here will now say, well, yeah, but all the rules are free online for GW. And that's not true. A 26-page document for, let's say, because people told me, well, all the Warcry rules are free online. I'm like, well, the compendium's free online because there was a shipping problem and they knew they had to get it out there. So the compendium is free online. But the Warcry rules, 26 pages of a 160-page book, is not the rules free online. It's some of the rules free online, so you can get a taste and decide whether you're interested in it. But it's not really the rule book. And it's not like there were 140 pages of fluff in that book or whatever. It's not the case. But some of the rules they've got, then they do the same with 40K. They do the same with Age of Sigmar. I'm sure they've got them. They don't keep them right up front. They don't put them someplace where you can find them easily. I've found that also true. But yeah, I don't know. It's their business. They can choose to run it the way they want to. Do you know if Monument Hobbies primers have the special sauce in them so they don't freeze during delivery? I don't know, to be fair. I don't. That I'm not sure about. That would be a thing to ask them about. But they may. Let's see here. Lee from Always Bored and Never Boring also did light rule set as kids entry to tabletop. Nice. Textured wallpaper scraps and samples are the cheapest for dry brushing pads. That's kind of cool, yeah. Let's see here. Good morning from a very wet Portland, Oregon. How you doing? Currently working on Battalion plus 15th Lyran regulars for the store Battletech campaign. Well, that's cool. A lot of people were angry. Sir, this is the internet. People are always angry here. True. I'm in the process of printing a Space Hulk terrain type board and want to utilize it in Space Station Zero, but it seems like the play area is more open. Any recommendations on how to make it work? A lot of people were like, when those walls came out for Kill Team, a lot of people were like, wow, that's really, that's really fortuitous for you guys because you'll be able to use those for Space Station Zero. And we were like, yeah, they really won't work for Space Station Zero. Like, Space Station Zero is kind of each of the rooms that you have a mission in, a challenge, are a little bit more open. Like, there's terrain. You want to have terrain in the way, but just straight up line of sight blocking walls and hallways and stuff like that. That's not the type of game that Space Station Zero is. So I don't know how you would make like 3D printed kind of Space Hulk type terrain work particularly well with Space Station Zero. It's kind of not designed that way. Because the thing about, let's say, a game like Space Hulk is that it is designed about, choke points and, like, they can't see me at all because I'm in a totally different room right now, so I don't have to worry about that. But eventually it's going to come to a point where there's going to be a choke point and I'm just shooting down a hall and like Overwatch and just trying to go until my gun jams. Like that's the conceit of that game. Our game is not like that at all. Our game is needing to be able to kind of move your models kind of around and do things and flank and turn off, laser turrets and potentially fight mutants and all kinds of stuff like that. But it's not designed to be played in a hallway kind of situation like that. I don't know how well it will work at all. I know CanCon is on soon, but I will have my hands full attending the Narrow Gauge Con in April. That's cool. As a software architect who's worked on very high-scale systems, I can confirm that making your own site is a deal with to deal with scale is dumb. Yeah. Been enjoying myself looking for weird monsters and creatures for Stargrave, giving me the excuse I needed. It is always fun. That's one of the things I like, and I know for some people it is definitely a non-selling point. It is a non-starter when you tell somebody this game is miniatures agnostic or model agnostic, and they're like, well, now I got to come up with the models for it. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's, I get that. But for me, it's the same thing, only in reverse. Like, this is a miniatures agnostic game, and I'm like, oh, now I got to come up with the models for it. That's what I want to do. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I like looking for that stuff and finding that stuff. But for some folks, they're just like, no, I just want to pick up the box that's next to the book on the shelf at the store so I know what I'm getting. And that's fine. Every game is not for everybody. That's just the way it works. Let's see here. How do you keep track of your army's rules in a way that stops you taking too long to read during every turn phase? I mean, sometimes I like to print things out, or even put it in my iPad or something like that. DreamPod 9 will be at Adepticon. I hope they entice more people to heavy gear. Game is on an upward trend. Free rules, low cost entry, fun game. Oh, wow, I didn't even know they were still around. That's cool. If GW got rid of Battlescribe, less people would play their games. Their own app is pretty bad. Yeah, they haven't made a good one yet, in my opinion. But the thing is that for the most part, other than maybe Age of Sigmar, the majority of their like they've got every little army builder thing that they make ever, it's always like, well, here's the army building, but it never wants to give you the actual stats for the units, because if you got the stats in the army building app, then you wouldn't need to buy the codex as much, I guess, is the thought process. I mean, honestly, if you're going to use the Warcry data set for Battlescribe, then you don't technically need to buy, like, let's say, a Tome of Champions or whatever that has stats in it and all that kind of stuff, because the stats are all in the data set. Now, there's not a good way to just go through and look at the data set. You basically have to start putting a bunch of those things into lists and then hit the button to show you what it all looks like and go, oh, those guys have toughness 4. Okay. So it's kludgy, but you can do it without having to buy the books. Now, I'm not telling you not to buy the books or whatever. And as it is, like I said, the new compendium, you can download it for free. So that's cool. But that's why GW doesn't put any of the stats to any of the models in their own builders, generally, again, other than the one you pay for, I guess, for Age of Sigmar and maybe for the 40K one. But I haven't even looked at the 40K pay app. But on the ones that are like public facing, they don't put the stats in there because they want you to get the stats out of the book. And so that makes the army building thing nearly useless to some degree. So yeah, it's just amazing to me. Like when I first came across the army building software that One Page Rules has, deployed for their different games, it is so much better than anything that Games Workshop has ever done. Games Workshop is a multi-billion-dollar company, but One Page Rules, those things are really useful. So it's kind of interesting. Restarting Warhammer Fantasy after 10 years. Can't wait for the old world any longer. We plan on making Warhammer Fantasy Battles rules for Age of Sigmar models that fit the old armies. There you go. I love heavy gear. Oops, everything moved. Where did it go? I love heavy gear, but would never convince anyone to try it or take the plunge and start a force. Built a South Force, 20 odd gears, a couple of tanks. I had a friend who was really into it, but we never really played. But he bought all the books and stuff, and there was a lot of talk about playing. I think we were heading more towards the RPG version of the game as opposed to the miniature version of the game. But I think he maybe even had a bunch of miniatures too, but I don't know. We never played. I played a demo of it one time at a convention in Northern Illinois years and years and years and years ago. And it was Heavy Gear Blitz, which is kind of supposed to be the more kind of scaled back sort of skirmishy style game. And the guy running it was a real jerk. And it really kind of turned me off to the game altogether. It was weird. It was real weird. How many accessories for a game is too many? I'm talking cards, tokens, etc. That's personal preference. There are plenty of games out there that I've looked at and gone, this has got too many tokens. I don't need that. No. And so, like, I mean, I'll be perfectly frank with you. I just had a conversation with a guy from Modifius and about the Fallout Wasteland Warfare. And I was like, he was asking me about my thoughts about the game. And I'm like, it's got a lot of tokens, like more tokens than I think are kind of necessary in a miniatures game. And, you know, so that, but it's personal preference. Some people love tokens. Some people love all that stuff and tracking all that kind of stuff. I'm not one of those people, but everyone's got their own kind of different thing. Is Snarling Badger Studios potentially going to publish Ancient Egypt if it becomes a viable rule set? I don't know that that's a, yeah, I don't know. I think that that's a Sam thing. I mean, we would certainly give him advice and whatnot, but it's I think it's mainly a joke. I'm pretty sure it's mainly a joke, but it is funny. Yes, Sam, when we were going to Columbus to hang out with Vince and also Ninjan and Miniac and whatnot. At some point in the airport, I think, all of a sudden, Sam just started coming up with this idea for this miniature game where you don't use miniatures, but you use eggs, and it's called Ancient Egypt. And I don't even, and it was, it's very funny, and we laughed about it a lot during that weekend. But I don't know that it's necessarily a thing, but maybe it's a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a freebie thing that we'll publish. I don't know. I don't believe we would make a book particularly, but you know, that takes a lot of work. Models I built for heavy gear usually had 6 pins. Ugh, yeah, metal miniatures, man. Ugh. Let's see here. Hello, Uncle Adam. Been a bit since I caught it live. Well, there you go. I hope you're doing well. I would like to buy Necromunda rules, but the new book spread is just too much for a skirmish game. Yeah, that is the downside to Necromunda, because I love the miniatures, I love the concept, I love everything about it, but it seems like you need 12 books to play properly. And it's also a lot more dense than I might like. A friend of mine ran it at TMX this year. He ran the Ash Wastes new stuff. And it was a lot. It, like, you know, in the particular mission that they were running when he was running it, every turn you had to roll to see if you went insane, blind, and something else. Like every turn you had to roll to see if, because you were outside, so you might go blind because of like desert blindness or whatever from, I don't know. And then the insanity, I don't know why you would turn insane all of a sudden, but you would, or there was some sort of thing, and there was something else. Maybe it was poison or gas inhalation. I mean, there was just all these different like things going on, and I'm just like, I don't know. I guess I like my games to be a little bit simpler these days, but man, the models are pretty dope. The models for Infinity do nothing for me. I like the old chunky mech style. The Infinity models can get a little anime sometimes, and I'm not super into that. Not like, you know, cat girls with big giant eyes and stuff like that, but like, it does definitely sometimes have a bit of a, like, it can just lead a little bit into anime, kind of. Maybe more Robotech kind of anime as opposed to, like, I don't know, cat girl anime. I don't know a lot about anime, I'm not going to lie. Between registration, IT issues, and simple popularity, the big cons just aren't fun anymore. I'm starting to look for smaller ones. I think that's honestly a way to go. There are probably small conventions near you, and they need support. There's a convention coming up in end of February that I'd like to go to, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to because I might have company that last kind of weekend of February. But generally, yeah, small conventions like that are I think the way to go for sure. Hoping for a new Warhammer Quest game this year after the debacle that was Cursed City, which I was really excited for, hoping for something new. I don't know. I mean, I gotta be honest, I really would love to see a new Space Hulk. That'd be great. I'd really like to see them. You know, they did Blackstone Fortress, they did Silver Tower, they did Cursed City. I think it's about time. I think we need them to bring back 2023 is the year of bringing back some dang Space Hulk, I think. I'm not sure which minis are harder to build, Gundam Artifact or Heavy Gear Plastics. There's more pieces in Gundam Artifact, but the instructions are also clearer. Well, the old Wizards of the Coast Star Wars miniatures game was a nice, simple intro into wargaming. Had many fun evenings playing with non-gamers. Yeah, I played the heck out of the... years and years ago, Wizards of the Coast made a Star Wars miniatures game, and they were pre-paints, like random pack pre-paints, kind of like Hero Clicks, but without the clicking. They were just, there was no clicking going on. There's just a round, regular base, but it was like, Darth Vader and Boba Fett and yada yada yada, and you played like on a grid, like you played just on a paper mat, kind of like you do with stuff like Hero Clicks, kind of. You didn't play on normal terrain generally. You played on that grid. But it was a lot of fun. We used to play it pretty much weekly at the comic shop, because at the time, like, it was long enough ago that here in town we didn't have any game shops. We had the comic shop that carried some games. They carried Magic, and they carried some board games here and there. And one of the guys who worked there was really big into Star Wars, and they started carrying the Star Wars game and also the HeroClix game because it was a comic shop. It totally made sense. And then both of those games were like, big. And so, like, there was one night of the week that was all about HeroClix, and people would come together to play that. And there was another night of the week that was all about the Star Wars game. And it was pretty cool. You can still find those models out there. But they're even smaller than Legion models, I think. Not like tiny, but just a little bit smaller. I've still got a duffel bag full of them in the basement. I should probably figure out what to do with those guys. Throw them on eBay or something. It was at the same time when they were also in Wizards of the Coast, also had a pre-paint Dungeons and Dragons game. There was like a Dungeons and Dragons skirmish game. And then those models became very popular because DMs were like, I need a whole bunch of skeletons or kobolds or orcs or whatever. The fact that none of those companies have ever sat down and said, why don't we just make a big bag of skeletons or a big bag of orcs, or, you know what I mean? Like, because when you would buy like the pre-painted, like, random pack Dungeons and Dragons game, you'd be like, oh, I got a Mind Flayer and a Rust Beetle and a this, and it's like all these super rare, like, within the world of D&D stuff, but you're just like, oh, and I got one skeleton. Well, I only need about 30 more skeletons, and then I could play regular D&D and have a bunch of skeletons enough for our game. And the fact that none of these companies have ever just been like, here's a, bag of kobolds or whatever, or a box, I don't know. Pathfinder sort of did that a little bit here and there, but we were always just stunned that they had the sculpts, they had the process. They could have just said, rather than making everything random pack, they could have just taken some of the, again, orcs, kobolds, skeletons, things you kind of need. You don't need a box full of mind flayers. You need one at best. But yeah. So, I don't know. Is there a chance that Epic 40K is going back in this year? Maybe you're not interested, but I'd like to hear your opinion. I feel like probably not. The only way that they could maybe would be if they were going to somehow try to tie it into Titanicus or whatever, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that that's the thing that they want to go down the road with. Maybe. Have you seen that Archon is doing a new Kickstarter with over 400 plastic miniatures? I have not. No. I've been working on my Archon terrain stuff. That's City Ruins. That stuff is awesome, but I have not taken a look at any of their other stuff right now. Have you ever tried Infinity? Yeah. Infinity 2nd edition and 3rd edition, I've been given demos on both of them, and they just never quite struck me. I would say the last demo I was given was by Sam, actually, because Sam likes to play. And there's something about the rules that just don't quite jive with what I expect, and it's kind of weird, and it's just never, like, there'd be times when I would sit, like, something would happen, and I'm like, so that's the way that's supposed to happen? Like it was a cover thing. Like, there was a point where he was behind a building, and there was a little tiny hole, like a window in the building, and at one point, he ran up that backside of the building so I could see him through that tiny hole for just a split second, and then he ran up and was on top of the building, but he was not within like an inch of the wall on the edge of the building. So because he didn't end his turn within the inch of the little wall, even though he had been basically behind the building the entire time, then I got to shoot him with no cover through that little tiny hole in the wall. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Or it was something like that. I don't exactly remember. It was more than a couple years ago. A couple years ago, we were just starting no, that's not true. I was going to say a couple of years ago we were just starting the pandemic, but no, 3 years ago we were just starting the pandemic. Whew. Anyway, yeah. So it just, I don't know. There's something about the way the rules work that's never quite been my interest. So and the models being all metal, although they're starting to change that. I think they're starting to do some CO cast. Their models did get better. The first model I ever built for them or from them was back in like 2011 maybe, and I swear to God that thing was a dozen pieces. It was just ridiculous. And they have obviously turned most of their models into like 2 or 3 piece models, which makes a lot more sense. But at the time I was like, you gotta be kidding me over here. The 28mm dude, like that many pieces. It was not didn't make any sense. So anyway. It's been a while since I used any sort of roster making app. Last time I did it was Army Builder back in the late 90s. Oh yeah, I remember Army Builder. Yeah. That was like the jam. That's like what everybody used back in the day. Let's see here. I've built a couple modern model jets with over 200 decals, dozens of tiny stencils. Once you get the rhythm, it's kind of fun. I'm still not good at decals yet. We want rules and models for ancient Egypt. The models will go bad very quickly. That's true. And heck, right now eggs are real expensive. So honestly, that's probably not a good time to launch. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Games where you need to roll to scratch your butt are not my jam. Yeah. JP got rockets. How you doing? We need a bigger VinceyCon. Well, I don't know about that. Spaceman is pretty good size though, but I don't know that we could have an entire convention down there. What do you think the chances of a new IP from GW is? I mean, none. Like they're not really into that. Like they're pretty much, they've got their fantasy and they've got their sci-fi, and that's it. Now, I mean, they have like Adeptus Flyaraunicus, and they've got Titanicus, and they've got this and this. So there's a lot of different games within the 40K universe, but I don't see them making a third universe, right? Like I don't think that there's anything they make that's not either sci-fi or fantasy. I think they used to make a historical game, didn't they? Like a long time ago? I don't know. Just found out about a new small local convention next weekend in Cincinnati. It's called Ice and Dice. That sounds fun. There you go. There's a small convention going on in Milwaukee this weekend, I believe, called Midwinter something or other, I think. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a gaming convention in Milwaukee. I'd pick up a new Space Hulk if they made it. I'm a sucker to their board game boxes. Oh, sure, yeah. I'd like to see a new Space Hulk using the Termies from the Space Adventures Rise of the Orcs box. Hero clicks but no clicks just equals hero? I mean, sort of, except some of them were bad guys. Chainmail, the pre-D&D game? No, it was just called Dungeons & Dragons Skirmish, I think. And it was in the early to mid 2000s. And it was pre-paint, like rubbery plastic, kind of like hero clicks and stuff like that. But again, it didn't have the clicky bases. They just had regular round bases. You bought a box and then there was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 models in this like little cardboard box. You open it up and you didn't know what was in there. And it was random, kind of like hero clicks are. And like I said, there was a D&D one and there was a Star Wars one, and they were pretty much concurrent, running at the same time. My buddy Crazy Dave must have spent $15,000 on that Star Wars game. Had the AT-AT, friggin' huge. Yeah, I have the AT-AT. I didn't buy it when it first came out. I bought it used later on just so I could have one. It's pretty cool. It's in the studio. You can't see it in the normal shot in the studio, but it's currently, I think it's fighting against Cthulhu. Because there was a Hero Clicks offshoot called Horror Clicks, which was whatever. But they did have this really, really cool pre-paint with Cthulhu that was like a foot tall. He was like kind of coming up out of the water. The base was like black plastic, but it had like waves like sculpted in it, and then like a beach, you know, but even though it was all black plastic, but it was this cool, it was super cool. And so, yeah, both of those are in my studio. Good times, Uncle Adam, but the Jedi didn't seem quite powerful enough in the pre-paint. No, that's true. I mean, it would have been, that's the thing about games, is if you, like, you know, like, let's be perfectly frank, the Space Marines should basically almost never lose, and the Grey Knights should never lose. You know what I mean? Like, the way that the Grey Knights are written in the lore is that if a Space Marine is one of a million of, like, people in the Imperium, then the Grey Knights are supposed to be 1 in a million of the Space Marines, right? So they should never get killed by an orc boy. But that happens in the game all the time. You know, something happens, somebody rolls really well, and then, oh, I got killed by like literally like a 6-point orc boy or something like that. You know, that's just the way the game works. If the game followed the lore directly, well, then it wouldn't be much fun, because I'd show up with my Grey Knights and you'd be like, well, I lost, you know, no matter. Same with like the like Custodes. Like Custodes should never lose. And they can get it close sometimes, but, you know, like I beat Custodes one time in previous version Kill Team with my guard, only because I was able to basically clog the hallways with my body, or my bodies. Like the particular mission required that you had to hold the objective that was in the middle of the board, and we had all these kind of like sort of halls sort of built kind of out of different ruins, and like my opponent, I think, had only 2 models. It was right after the Elites thing came out and you could start playing Custodes and Kill Team. He had 2 models and I had like, I don't know, 12. And he would kill every single guardsman that he met. But the fact was that the game was only 5 rounds, and I just clogged the way. The only way he could get to there was through this hallway, and I just filled it full of guard. They couldn't do anything to these models, to these big golden boys, but those golden boys could only kill 1 per round, so they couldn't make it all the way to the center. And I just had one guy in the back on the objective, like with a plasma gun, just going, hopefully I don't have to fire this, because I don't think it's going to do anything. And it was a lot of fun. Goon packs would be awesome. Yeah, I think that it would just make sense. I don't know. eBay to the rescue. Yeah, but like then everybody would be like, a lot of people would be bidding over, like, if someone like took a bunch of like orcs and put them together from like, say, the D&D skirmish game and put them together, like those would sell for like a huge amount of money, which was awesome if you ended up buying a bunch of orcs. But yeah, Twilight Creations did spare bags of their zombies. Yeah, but they were kind of small. The zombies like from that game were kind of small, and they also weren't painted. Like that's what I think a lot of people wanted, is they wanted like the HeroClix kind of like level of paint jobs. They just wanted orcs, goblins, kobolds, skeletons, the normal stuff that you as a DM might use in a game, you know, some sort of fantasy style game like that. Selling non-randomized minis for D&D means that they aren't making as much money off folks trying to get the basic minis necessary for most campaigns. I mean, I get the money behind it. I just think that they would probably make, because there's a lot of people out there who are good enough at math to go, I'm not going to buy a bunch of these random boxes just to get the goblins I need. So they'll just decide not to do it. But if you were to be like, look, we'll sell you a box of goblins and it costs this much, I'm sure that there's probably a way that they could have made decent money that way. Now, admittedly, there are also people who are bad at math who are like, well, if I buy enough of these random pack boxes, eventually I'll get the goblins I need. Well, you know, but I don't know. I'm not a business person, Lord knows, but it seems like it would have been a smart idea. People would have bought them. I know I would have bought them, and I don't even really play Dungeons and Dragons or any kind of role-playing stuff, but yeah. If you can buy a box of what you need in cheap miniatures, you won't be buying booster boxes all the time. And again, that's why you would do it for just the, like, again, like the chaff, you know, like you do it for the goons, you do it for just like the low end stuff. But if you want that, you know, mind flayer or whatever, well, like that's the thing. Back when I was into that type of game, Mage Knight was the one that I got into with the random pack boxes. And it was about chase figures. It was about like, I kept buying boxes because I was looking for that storm golem or whatever, you know, that thing. And yeah, you'd get a bunch of extra stuff and be like, ugh, you know, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I am glad I don't play those types of games anymore, for sure. I probably sunk 12 grand into the Axis and Allies collectible miniatures games, both land and sea. At the War of Sea game was wicked for group games, abstract for sure, but felt right. Well, that's cool. I remember seeing those models, yeah. Archon needed to focus on what they're good at, producing other people's minis. All of their game attempts have been poo. I don't think I can think of any other games. Did they do the, like, was there a Aliens versus Predator or something like that game? There might have been that. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. At one time in 8th edition, I think 50 conscripts could kill 10 Space Marines. Yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't particularly make sense. AT&T. AT-AT versus Cthulhu. My money is on Sea Dog. Well, sure, I get that. D&D Onslaught is the new one. Yes, it is. I haven't tried it. I watched people play it at, the heck was that? Oh, it was when I was in Reno last year for the trade show, the Game Manufacturers Association trade show. There was a night where they were, Carlson's rolling around on the floor on his back. She doesn't do too frequently, but my wife is enjoying it. He's a goofball. Anyway, yeah, people were playing the Onslaught game and everything, and I don't know if it's even out yet. Is it? I haven't seen it in any store I've been to, but then to be fair, I guess I don't know that. I've seen the models. I've seen the little Frameworks models. I own a couple of them, and I was going to make a video about them, and I just haven't. I don't know. They're not great. They're okay, but they're kind of expensive. They're not crazy expensive. They're cheaper than GW, Lord knows. But even then, they're just not, I don't know. It makes sense to some degree for playing a role-playing game if, like, this is my character. But then they also make a lot of other types of monsters and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know. The boxes where you get, like, 5 orcs are surprisingly expensive in comparison, a little bit. I don't know. It seems like they should be cheaper, but they also have lots of options. That's one of the things that is nice about them, is it's not just like you buy this model and you put it together and it's only like they've got tons of like different heads and shields and weapons and this and that for each of them. So you have a lot of different loadouts you can set them up with, which is cool too. So Cthulhu could be easily put into D&D. I'm pretty sure Cthulhu was in D&D back in the day. Like the earliest like deities and demigods, I think the first version of that book had Cthulhu in it, and then later on they had to take it out because of reasons. But yeah. Horror Clicks had a really great Alien Queen versus Predator box set. I vaguely remember that too, yeah, at the comic shop. Hey, Emily, how you doing? Oddly, my game buddies wouldn't let me use those movie rules for the Space Marines. If only I'd only be using one squad. I get you, sure. There was a company selling bags of generic fantasy henchmen like skeletons, big bags of them. Bland Co. did a video about them on YouTube. He got them from Amazon. I mean, yeah, there's probably some like weird, like, yeah, I could see companies making stuff like that. I don't know how good they'd be sculpts wise, but yeah. Why do so many hate metal minis? I can understand on the large multi-piece models, but unpack a blister of metal Skaven, remove the mold lines, and prime, no assembly required. I think because for a metal mini to have no assembly required, it then has to be a pretty static pose. So that's number one. Any model that's going to have a more dynamic pose has to be in multiple parts because of the way that the molds go together, right? So, and with metal minis, you can use a rubber mold, which allows you to have a little bit more flexibility, no pun intended, than a steel mold, which is what you do, injection molded plastic with. But yeah, I think it's just because it's real hard to glue them together. You got to pin the stuff if it's something heavy. Scraping mold lines is actually a pain on metal and a lot harder than on plastic. And very frequently, because I don't know why, but like sometimes the detail is just not quite there. Like there's certain parts where the detail might be there, but it's just the way. Very frequently, if they're newer sculpts done in metal, they're not too bad. The detail can be there. But older sculpts, when stuff was still sculpted a lot in like green stuff and then turned into a metal mold, there's times when you're painting, you're like, I don't know, is this more of his shirt? Is that a pouch? What is that lump down by his belt? I can't tell. And that's the thing that I've bumped into time and time again. So yeah, I'm just not a big fan of metal models because of that. Do Vallejo have some okay white paints? I need a couple, and what is it? I need a couple, and what is easy to get here is GW and Vallejo. Well, don't get a GW white paint, for God's sakes, because those are all not great, I don't think. Personal preference. Vallejo white is not bad. The best white that you can get, in my opinion, is still Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl, bold titanium white. Actually, yesterday I was doing some cleaning and I found my original bottle of bold titanium white that I bought at Las Vegas Open 2019 when I was like, oh, I'll try out this new brand of paint. Well, when I'm going to try out a new brand of paint, the first bottle I buy is white because that will tell you everything about the brand. And I came back the next year to 2020 Nova Open, and then I was like, I would like to buy all the rest of these paints, please. And then they shipped them because I really like that white. So the bottle design was a lot different back then too. I should post a picture. Anyway, yeah, but Vallejo white's not bad, but don't GW white. No, no. Stormcast are insanely powerful in the lore compared to the actual game. Yeah. Oh, everything moved again. Man, if YouTube ever got this chat window to work, that'd be cool. Let's see here. I'm not buying frameworks. It's the WizKids models. Expensive and the mold lines are horrible. Yeah, the fighter didn't have terrible mold lines. It did not. I've not had like flashbacks to those mold lines, so they weren't crazy terrible. I mean, I still have flashbacks sometimes to mold lines from War Machine, from Privateer Press, when they started doing plastics, even when they were still doing metals. But yeah, they weren't great. I mean, but that's one of the big benefits to 3D printing is every time I start working on a 3D printed model, I'm like, oh, there's no mold lines. This is awesome. I mean, sometimes you got those little bumps where the supports, but other than that, those are easy. I prefer Vallejo model color white to game color. Yeah, I would think if you're going to buy a Vallejo white, I would go with the model color versus game color. They have two separate lines of paints. All the rest of the colors, I would generally go game color, but I would probably use the white from model color, honestly. 3D printing is nice for big groups of cheap henchmen. Sure. And I'm sure there are 3D print farmers that would likely sell piles of them on Etsy or eBay. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I wouldn't put any stock in the Onslaught game. Like I said, I haven't got a chance to try it out, but I'm not thinking it's going to set the world on fire. Like I said, I also don't even know if it's been released. Like, they were showing demos of it back in March of last year, and I don't know if it's in stores yet. Maybe. I don't know. If anyone's seen it in the store, let me know. It's not very compelling. Gotcha. I keep a row to tape down brushes so they don't get smushed, and then use one of the Shadespire mini cases to put minis and other supplies I need to, and bring my wet palette maybe. Oh, for travel. Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, you were doing a lot of travel while you were also painting at the same time. That's a good point. I have the original Deities and Demigods book complete with the Cthulhu goodness, but it's in rough shape. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 1980s is when that came out, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Early 80s, I think. Oh, dang it. It moved again. Man, Pro Acryl White is so good. Yes, it is. Like I said, I think it's probably the best white that's out there. Best white paint out there. Why is it that companies that push the boundaries the most with other people's IP tend to be the most litigious? I'm looking at you, GW, and TSR. Because they're big. You know, they get popular from doing that, and then when they get real big and popular, then they can hire more lawyers. I think that's probably a big part of it. When introducing seasoned board gamers, spicy, to mini wargaming, do you have any advice on how to allow them some list building options from a predetermined selection of minis without it becoming too much? I mean, honestly, the first game or two, it takes a little bit of reading the room. It takes a little bit of understanding your audience. Like if you're trying to teach friends who are big into board games about some miniature games, if you think that they would enjoy having some choice in loadouts and things like that, you could give them some simple options so they can kind of go one direction or the other. One thing I like to do is make two forces and then ask the person which one they would like to play. And then you could play the other one. Now, if one of them is like a real glass hammer, kind of hard to use, and one's a lot more generalized and standard, you still might want to suggest that one. But the other thing is, I wouldn't even go with the glass hammer kind of concept, because it can be really disturbing when you are playing a game that you are just learning for the first time and the Eldar shoot you off the board by just rolling handfuls of dice. Like, I've got a friend who's played, who's played Eldar for years, and I hated playing against him sometimes. I mean, I like him. He's a great guy. But playing against those stupid Eldar, like my Space Marines would shoot, each of them would roll one die. I got a unit of 10 Space Marines. I roll 10 dice. Boom, there you go. Because we're not within rapid fire range or head moved or whatever the dumb rules on 40K were at the time. And then he'd be like, okay, cool, now I'm going to fire all my Eldar dudes and just throw like 35 dice or something like that. You're like, what the heck? He's like, well, each one of these is 3 dice and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but they're really, they're really weak, and they're like, weight of fire is super important. So, if you're going to go down that road to try to teach somebody and they're into board gaming and stuff, if you think they might not over focus on the choices, but they might like some choices. If on the other hand, they're just like, I just want to learn how to get the general hang of the rules, then just go, here's a predetermined list. There you go, play that. Or again, like I said, make 2 predetermined lists that are equal, and one's not too hard to play or glass hammery or whatever, and then just go, which one do you think is cooler? And then let them pick that one and you take the other one. That's a good idea. Um, let's see here. Frameworks appear to be as expensive as GW compared to buying Dark Reaper minis. Well, I mean, like I said, I bought like a figure, like a normal fighter, like a human fighter dude, and he was either $15 or $20. And if I was to buy a single figure from GW these days, in most situations he'd be $35. So, and the WizKids guy did give me different options. I could either take a mace or a sword, or I could have a cape on or not the cape, or I could have the shield on the arm or the shield in the back, and different heads. And so there's all these different options, which is also nice. And sometimes you get little options here and there in the GW stuff, but not so much. Now, the GW models are generally, I think, better sculpts with more detail. But, you know, they're again, considerably more expensive. So there's that. I might be able to get the Bold Titanium White February when we are down in Stockholm. A hobby store down there is getting some soon. That and some of the other ones. Nice. Frameworks are already on clearance at my FLGS. Yeah, I think that one of the game stores here in town also was doing it, like buy two, get one free or something like that. Yeah. Not to beat a dead horse, but will the new OGL affect the D&D Pathfinder minis? No idea. They're a bit expensive, but I assume they're also larger than GW. The frameworks, I don't think so. If anything, I feel like they're a little bit smaller than the GW ones. I cannot recommend Duncan's paint line for the whites. Went all in due to FOMO. Their whites are chunky like stew. Ew. Gross. Stew. I have not messed with his paints at all. My friend who owns a local shop that I go to, he did the Kickstarter, not for like the store, but just I think for himself. And he got them in recently, a month ago, maybe less. And, but I don't know if he's used them yet or not. But I did watch Brent from Goobertown Hobbies and Casey from eBay Miniature Rescue. I watched the two of them use the paints at that Reno convention for the Game Manufacturers Association back in March of last year, because I think that they're being distributed in America by Alliance or somebody. I don't remember who. Anyway, so they were in a booth there. You know, those paints were in a booth, and they had like a little setup where you could come in and then like try them out, you know, because that's a trade show where basically all the people who come to that trade show are store owners and store employees. So you run a lot of demos so that they can be like, oh, these are good paints, or this is a good game, or this is a good whatever, and then they will order them for their store is the hope. But Brent was there with a friend of his who was a store owner, and I think that Casey was just there on a like a, you know, an influencer or a media pass or something like that, because he lives in Reno, or real close, maybe real nearby. Anyway, so and Brent is way the heck over on the other side of the country in Maine, so anyway. They were sitting there. They just basically brought models, I think, from from Casey's house, and were like, they asked the guys, "Can we just sit here and paint?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And so they were just working with the paints and stuff like that. And you know, I think both of them made a video. I'm sure Brent did. I don't remember if Casey did or not, but both of them, I think, probably made videos about the paints at the time. Again, way back in March. I remember seeing that the caps were weird and they were kind of leaky. Like, not like once you closed them, they were okay. It wasn't like they were just going to like leak out. But because of the way that the nozzles are not that kind of straight with a rounded tip, but this kind of weird cone shape, I don't know. Like, already by the end of that 2-day trade show, many of the caps were covered in paint because you would get it on your fingers. It's a weird bottle design, but I don't know much about the paints per se, specifically the white. But a white paint that is thick like stew does not sound like a good selling point, at least not in my opinion. If I wanted that, I'd buy some GW stuff. let's see here. Army Painter Airbrush White is pretty sweet if I've ever used it with a brush. I've been loving the Army Painter airbrush paints. Man, I really like them. Now, again, I have not tried using them with a brush yet. I only use them with my airbrush, but I like them with my airbrush, that's for sure. Issue with ordering paint is that that not shipping it cheap here, so always I need to feel to buy a chunk to make it worth it. Sure. I bought my deities and demigods in 1981. Nice. Really tempted by the new Slaves of Darkness. Don't know how many people who play fantasy. I mean, I don't know. Age of Sigmar is doing relatively well. I was able to mess around with a bunch of these models because I really liked. Well, there was a start collecting box, which I don't know if they call them that start collecting box anymore. Do they? I don't know. But there was the Slaves of Darkness start collecting box that had this guy in it, Chaos Lord on Karkadrak or whatever. If you watched me paint this guy on Twitch, you will have heard the story multiple times about how I started to build the model and then threw it away and went on eBay and bought one that somebody else had built and never painted because I couldn't get that stupid lizard guy put together properly. It's really a hard build. So if you're thinking about that, just keep in mind that lizard is a real pain in the butt to build. The guy's fine, but the lizard guy sucks. And there were huge gaps all over the place because I couldn't get it to glue together right and everything. It was a whole thing. So I knew that if I just went on eBay, I'd find somebody else who had built it and then never, painted it. And of course, never scraped the mold lines. So then I did that and then scraped the mold lines and primed it and painted it. And it was fine. But that was the only place where you could get this guy for like a good long time was in that start collecting box. Also, I don't know what, no, this guy's separate. That guy's cool though, too. I like, not so much with the hammer. This big, huge blade and this is dope. I think that's really, really cool. I want that guy for no good reason. This guy's pretty cool. These guys I think are new. But then they have, these guys. These guys, I believe, well, are these new sculpts? Because I can't tell. Because they had Chaos Warriors also in that box that were not the old ones that kept their, like the old ones kept their shield and because they were designed to be rank and flank, so they had to keep all their stuff in. And then the new ones were able to spread out a little bit more and get their shield out there and their weapon out there and all that kind of stuff. But these don't look as familiar as I would think. So maybe these are new sculpts? I don't know. I could be wrong. And then these guys are super cool. Like, I just really like all this stuff, but I'm not going to play Age of Sigmar, and some of this stuff I could use for maybe Warcry, but I don't know that I could use, I don't know if I could use these guys for Warcry. I could use one of them maybe, but those dice are silly. I mean, I like the dice. I like custom dice, don't get me wrong, but these custom dice, you're probably going to get, what, 18 of them? 20 dice? It'll probably be $40. So I'm going to pay $2 a die for a black die with it. Like, get out of here. And then we're getting into Horus and all that kind of stuff and whatever. But yeah, it's when I saw this article, I think this was from Saturday, from yesterday. I was just like not so much the Chaos Knights. They're fine. They're well done. They're better than the old ones, for God's sakes. But man, these Chaos Warriors and Chosen are fine. This guy's really cool, and that guy's really, really cool, and then of course him, and even this, like, I like these new whatever these guys are called, Demon Princes. I like the fact that they've got like a different head depending on which way you're going. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool. I think the new Demon Prince kit is pretty cool. I would like, okay, never mind. You've got the ability to go either with hooves or with like talons, which is also dope. Yeah. I don't know what I would do with it, but I'm thinking real hard about getting myself a Demon Prince kit when it comes out, just because I would paint it and have a good time with it, maybe. Use it for, I don't know. But that's the question. I don't play a lot of fantasy skirmish right now that I could use this for. I'll have to think about it. But nonetheless. All right. Now I need to get my windows back in order. So I need you and I need you. There we go. Oh, and then you, and then click there. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. I absolutely love Corvus Belli and Knight models, metal minis. They're absolutely beautiful and go together well. The only issue I have with Corvus Belli models is way too many tactical rocks. I mean, I don't mind a tactical rock once in a while. Just want to give a shout out to my son. He has started his own wargame YouTube channel, and I'm so proud. Adam, you've been a big influence to both of us. Check out, it's called Brush and Blade. Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. Good luck. I remember Tester's paints, and I don't miss them. Yeah, the first models I ever painted were like BattleTech, and I was using square glass bottle Tester's enamels, which I had used on model airplanes when I was a kid, and I still had some laying around, and so I started using them, and that's not the way to go. Frameworks, horrible pricing compared to other great options out there. The other thing too is that it's probably a really bad time to pull it off when also 3D printing is getting bigger. Like right now, like is not the time to come out with a kind of expensive, like not particularly unique IP. You know what I mean? Like situation. I don't know. It doesn't seem like yeah. I'm excited to try out Gaslands today. Nice. My buddy who works at FLGS is hosting a Learn to Play event. He even built Mario Kart themed track for it. Should be fun. Nice. A little bit of Rainbow Road or something like that. Skirmish games without handfuls of dice is probably best for introducing board game players. True. Framework stuff just seemed overpriced for what you got when they were introduced. A lot of people said that, and I don't. And it's funny because you could be like, well, they're overpriced. And you're like, yeah, but they're way cheaper than GW. And they're like, yeah, but still they seem to be overpriced. Maybe that should tell us some things. Demon Prince is $80 MSRP. Yeah, I mean, sure, that doesn't surprise me. I would like to see it maybe up close. Like, because it depends on how big it is. Like, people talk about, like, you know, Bellicor and how expensive he is, but he's a pretty good-sized model. But I don't know if he's really super expensive, and I don't know if he's worth it, but I'm not sure. But, yeah, I don't know. It depends. Every once in a while, I'll see a model from them, and I'll be like, oh, that's bigger than I thought it was. Okay, but I don't know. And again, I'm not looking for super huge models, so there's that, too. But, I don't know, $80 for, like, a single... I mean, he's got lots of options, but... The downside sometimes to lots of options, I guess, is that like, okay, but I mean, well, maybe I can use those heads in something else. You know what I mean? If I get real fancy with my kit bashing, but sometimes they build them in a way that you can't. So I don't know. We'll see. But there's a part of me that just wants that, specifically that Demon Prince. And so I'll think about it for sure. But it may not be something I get right away. Slaves of Darkness is my army for this year for Age of Sigmar, but I did 3 Age of Sigmar armies last year, so it would probably just be Slaves of Darkness this year. I mean, it's probably not a bad idea to maybe, you know, dial it back a little bit, focus on one thing instead of having like 3 armies in a year is a lot. That's pretty good work though. The Skaven Warcry box has those little terrible old rat ogres in there. Yeah, they do. They need a new rat ogre box. They need to redo basically all the Skaven. I mean, yeah, they need new plague monks. God knows. They need new rat ogres for sure. There's a lot of models that they need. And they've done a little bit of new Skaven here and there. They slipped some into Warhammer Underworld. But come on, like just give us some more Skaven. Come on. A key thing about frameworks is that they were a year late on the launch, and then the COcast tech was announced a few weeks after they hit the shelves, plus 3D printers and 4K are becoming... Yeah, exactly. It's a bad timing, and I'm sure that they're late because of the pandemic and the supply chain and yada yada. No one could plan for that, technically. I mean, you could have, but nobody seemed to like they were interested in doing that kind of thing. Yeah, no, it's... The idea, I think, was they're like, well, look, if we make these for people who played Dungeons & Dragons specifically, then they'll be able to have a decent character and they'll buy it straight from us and it'll have some customization, but not necessarily enough. I I know plenty of folks who have had their customer or their character for D&D done through like Hero Forge and then printed out. You know what I mean? They either Hero Forge is this website you can go to where you can custom build, like you'd be like, oh, I want a human or a dragonborn or this or that or whatever, and it's a dude or a lady, and then you change the size, and you can even pose them a bit, and put different clothes on them, and you do all this stuff right there in your browser. You can spin it around, look at it from all different angles, and then design yourself a character, and then either say, I want to buy the STL for like $10, and then I can print it, have my friend print it, or I can print it if I'm into 3D printing, or they will print it and mail it to you, and then you have your model, and then you could paint it, and then boom, done. And I've seen tons of those, and they're great, and they're incredibly customizable. You can do exactly what you want, and these frameworks things are technically a bit more expensive if you're getting, let's say, Hero Forge to print it and mail it to you. It's more expensive, but you're getting exactly what you want. These frameworks models are like, oh, they're customizable, and you're like, yeah, but I get the choice between a mace and a sword, but my guy carries a whatever, I don't know, nunchucks, I don't know, whatever, and so it's not as customizable as you might think. And so, and again, when you're doing your character and you're doing this once, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and honestly, the people from Forge or Hero Forge are even starting to do 3D or like color 3D printing, which I haven't even tried yet. I should really do that and see. It's real interesting. Anyway, but nonetheless, overall, it seems like it was not necessarily a good launch, and it hasn't had legs so far, the framework stuff. So, what are you going to do? Always stokes my hobby engine. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Sounds like that Demon Prince is a business expense to me. I don't ever put miniatures as a business expense. Camera stuff, travel, things like that. Those are business expenses for sure. I have a accountant I work with and all that kind of jazz. But I don't ever put even like miniatures that I buy with the sole purpose of just painting on Twitch or something like that. I never put them on as a business expense because it makes me nervous. I don't want to go down that road necessarily. So I haven't. But yeah. One Page Rules is currently working on Skaven. Well, they're probably called something else, but yeah, I get you. Tonight I start playing Underworlds with my wife. Nice. I swear every time I have seen someone get a Hero Forge, the character is dead next session. It's like a curse. I mean, that's the way it works with 40K. Well, with miniature gaming in general, but specifically it happens in like 40K and Age of Sigmar, like the big army games. You finish up some brand new like big thing and you've been painting it and you work real hard on it and all that kind of stuff. And the first game that it plays in, it dies turn one. I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me. So yeah, I can totally understand that. New Demon Prince is only slightly larger than the previous model. It won't look weird putting them on the table together. I got into the Slaves of Darkness box set. Nice. One of the things I really like about the OPR Skaven is that they look less ragged. I get why the GW ones are ragged, but I like how having well-maintained clothing, armor, and weapons looks. The benefit sometimes to not making the model ragged, and I think it's maybe a little harder to do with it's a little bit harder to do with 3D printer stuff to some degree because of the resin and all that stuff. But it's easier to make something ragged than to make it not ragged, right? For the end user. So if I buy some miniature and all their stuff is good, their clothes have got holes in them and all their stuff is beat up and dented and whatnot. If I want to make that guy look like he's been taking care of himself, it's actually a giant pain in the butt to fix all those little problems. But if they look like they're basically kind of taking care of themselves and now you want to make them look kind of ragged, you can go in there with an X-Acto blade and cut little nicks into their armor and stuff like that and do a bunch of like texture work that way, and then also do it with paint as well. But going the other direction, like if you want your new Necrons to look nice and shiny, well, you can't, because the new Necrons look kind of zombified. They look all kind of beat up and they're missing parts, and sometimes their eyeballs hanging out and stuff like that, like the new ones that came out with Indominus. So if you want clean, like factory new looking Necrons for whatever reason, you kind of have to go back and find the old ones if you can. So yeah, I can understand the benefit to keeping the model a little. I mean, you know, there's also benefit sometimes to really getting in there into the grunge and modeling and a lot of just ragged rags and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not looking for that, then it's a different story. The color Hero Forge minis are just okay. The colors are very, very matte. They're almost fuzzy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the material that they make them out of that causes things. I've seen pictures of them, and they do look kind of almost fuzzy. And I think that's because of the process. I don't know exactly what the process is, but it uses this as part of it somehow. I don't know exactly how, but it's like it's almost like a powder thing as opposed to like a resin thing. You know what I mean? Or something. Let's see here. I recently painted a Hero Forge mini and it wasn't blocky at all. Well, that's good. Grungy and rough have begun to be synonymous with poor looking when it comes to models for me. I've just heard it so many times. I like painting that way though. I like taking a model if it's smooth and clean, and I still like. I don't like soldiers to look clean. It doesn't make sense, kind of. If they're out in the field, you know, if you're having a battle, they should not look parade ready, in my opinion. I think that they should look grungy. And it's just more interesting for me to paint. Trying to paint something incredibly clean and perfect, I got no interest in that. I'm much more interested in painting things to be weathered and dirty and that kind of stuff. But that, again, personal preference. Have you seen Conquest? Apparently they're coming out with a second edition soon, and that game plays really fast. I thought they already had a second edition. I could be wrong. Yeah, I've seen Conquest. I'm not into rank and flank. I think some of their models, especially their newer stuff, are really quite nice. They've started doing a really good job with their sculpting. And it's not even so much the sculpting as it was. The sculpts were always pretty cool. It was the actual production, the molds that they used to make in the early days were real soft, had very little detail. Like everything was rounded, kind of. Nothing ever came to a point. And they have gone away from doing that. It's more expensive to make a sharp mold, just because it takes more time and it takes more little tiny tools to get in there and grind out all the parts and all that kind of stuff. So that's what a big, huge part of the cost is. But they've been taking that cost lately. And the newest stuff that I've seen over the last year or two has been really good. As far as detail and sharpness and all that kind of stuff is very cool. But I'm not into rank and flank games. And I know that they have First Blood, which is their kind of... It's a game that heads more towards the size, number of models frankly, kind of like Age of Sigmar. And that's still, for me, more models than I would like. I would love them to make, frankly, a third game using the same models that just was like, I've got 5 to 10 models and that's my entire army. And they don't have to move together in a group. They can be all separate and all that kind of stuff. That's the type of skirmish that I like. I did just buy a t-shirt from them recently, though. I was at a small convention in Wisconsin back in October, and I bought a sweet 100 Kingdoms t-shirt that I thought was pretty cool. I was looking at the Wargames Atlantic kits for Stargrave, Space Station Zero, etc. Which kits are theirs? Wargames Atlantic, I'm familiar with a bunch of their stuff. I've got a bunch of the jumpsuit kind of cannon fodder people, both the men and the women. I just recently bought their Ura guys or whatever they're called. I've bought a bunch of their models. I've got their lizard men. I think I've got some of their goblins maybe, or skeletons, or maybe both. I've got a bunch of Wargames Atlantic stuff. I like their work quite a bit. I've seen the Great Clean One model someone made. Definitely harder to make a model look cleaner. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Someone took the Great Unclean One Nurgle guy and made him just look like a big, just Caucasian, freshly out of the shower fat guy, basically. Covered up all of the pustules and the sores and all that stuff. It's still the same model. He's just pink and shiny and like clean looking, and it's way more disturbing than the original. So if you want to have some fun, type in Great Clean One into YouTube, or sorry, into Google, and have a good time with that. It's well done. It's very well done. I bought some Starfinder minis for Space Station Zero. Nice, nice. All right, folks. Well, it is 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods, so I want to thank everybody for coming by today. I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to go have lunch at my in-laws, as per usual, and then I've got some more basement cleaning, and I've got some miniatures I'm gonna work on this afternoon. And yeah, so thanks for coming by, everybody. I hope that maybe you got to do some hobbying while hanging out, and I hope that helped. And I'll be back here again in 2 weeks. Otherwise, tomorrow is I'll be on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central, like I usually am. Monday nights, 7 p.m. Central for 3 hours, and Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Central for 3 hours. Right now, I am painting Ravaged Star miniatures from Mini Wargaming Dave and Lazy Squire games. I've got some Chaos Women that I've been painting, which are a lot of fun. I like those models. And so hop on by, come by, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/tabletop minions, and come and hang out. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, and maybe get some hobby done if you're interested. And if not, just take a break and rest. That's also important. It's the weekend, unless again, you're already over there in Australia, where I think it's already Monday. So we'll see you again soon. Like I said, back here again in 2 weeks, and thanks for watching.